Well, no more Mr. Nice Guy, because Al Cooper is stepping out of the shadows and dropping some absolute fire and truth bombs. Welcome back to Words of Paradise. I'm your host, Leon Idol, and yeah, Alice Cooper, not the name that you think I'd be bringing up. Here we are in 2023, although to be fair, he is on tour right now, so anyone that's a big fan, this may be one of your last chances to see him. Dude's not getting any younger. But that being said, he came out with the fire, talking about how trans ideology, the transgenderism we see of today, is, and rightly so, a fad. That's right, he was correct to call it that, because that's what it is. Let's take a look and see what Al Cooper had to say about trans ideology in 2023. Alice Cooper's rock and roll revolt against trans ideology. Rock and roll revolt? I've never heard of Spiked as an outlet, but I already think I'm gonna like this. Yes, the trans movement is a fad, and a dangerous one at that. Oh, that's exactly the sort of face I would expect to see the trans movement being called a fad. Is the tide finally turning on trans? I can often feel as if every public figure is towing the woke line, with any dissenting view crushed by cancel culture. Yeah, because do you guys remember when Paul Stanley from Kiss said very similar things a couple months ago and then immediately apologized for it when he caved to the pressure of everyone throwing shade at him? I wonder if Al Cooper's gonna do the same thing. But to be fair, it should be very easy for him to tell a real boy from a real woman, considering according to Alice Cooper, only women bleed. Alright, that joke was a lot better than you guys gave me credit for, but let's continue. Even the rock stars who think of themselves as rebellious, from Billy Bragg to Neil Young, have become boringly conformist. Thank God, then, for Alice Cooper. In an interview with the online magazine Stereo Gum this week, the American rock legend gave some refreshingly common sense takes on the gender identity ideology. Common sense? I didn't even know that was still a thing. I guess regardless of the fact that school's out, Alice is still out there hitting the streets, getting them street smarts. But here we go. Cooper is especially, yeah, that one didn't work quite as well as the women bleed one. Cooper was especially skeptical about the growing number of kids who identify as trans. I'm understanding that there are cases of transgender children. Well, I already disagree with you there, but maybe you mean children with gender dysphoria. But I'm afraid that it's also a fad, he said. I find it wrong when you've got a 6-year-old kid who has no idea. He just wants to play and you're confusing him by telling him, yeah, you're a boy, but you could also be a girl if you want to be based. Cooper went on to talk about how bewildering it must be for children and young people to grow up under the shadow of trans ideology, while still struggling to work out their own identities. Let somebody at least become sexually aware of who they are before they start thinking about if they're a boy or a girl, Cooper said. Once again, based! I mean, is there anything wrong with that sentence? Now, people could make the argument that people become sexually aware of who they are in, like, their early to mid-teens or whatnot, and I would, of course, say, no, you still gotta be an adult if you want to do something to your body medically. Anything under that is, child abuse. That being said, I would obviously say, yeah, better somebody in, like, their late teens than, like, a 6-year-old, because at that point, maybe you can make the argument they're thinking for themselves. I disagree entirely, but let's at least leave 9 and 10-year-old Timmy and Susie out of it, shall we? Like, can we at least come to that level of agreement? And it seems like that's kind of where Alice Cooper is at, which, might I add, is refreshing. He doesn't have to agree with me 100%, but it's nice to see people in his, on his side of things still calling this out. I mean, then he's like a 70-year-old rock star. What's he got to lose? But we could have said the same thing about Paul Stanley, and look at him kowtowing 24 hours after saying basically the same stuff. In other words, as fellow rockers Pink Floyd once said, leave those kids alone. Oh, I hope that was part of his quote. Like, I hope he quoted Pink Floyd and said that. Like, it looks like it based on how the commas and apostrophes work, but this is written in kind of a strange way. Cooper also touched on the threats trans ideology poses to women's rights and single-sex spaces. A guy can walk into a woman's bathroom at any time, just say, I feel like I'm a woman today, and have the time of his life in there. Unfortunately, this is now a very real concern for many women. Predatory men have been given a green light to enter women's private spaces, and women who push back will be branded as bigots. Where do you draw the line? Cooper rightly asked. Oh my rock god, what an absolute Chad statement. He is entirely correct here. I mean, there have been cases of this happening. Now, is it an all the time thing? Are we seeing it in the news every day? Some dude goes into a woman's bathroom claiming that he's a chick and then sexually assaults someone? No, we're not seeing that every day. But it is still something that's entirely possible, and maybe it's happening more than we think, but those sort of stories do not come out because, that's something that the big media would put the kibosh on because it hurts their narrative. I'm not super conspiratorial in every way, so I mean, I don't know if that's what's happening or not. It could just be that this is a rare but still happening occurrence, and it could be easily quelled by just not letting dudes go into the women's bathroom and invade women's spaces. You know, y'all get on to me saying, oh, Leon, how come you hate feminists so much? No, I'm totally a feminist. I want these women to have their spaces. Saying what we've all been thinking, Cooper also summed up the whole woke thing. It's getting to the point where it's laughable, based. He said, everybody I talk to says, isn't it stupid? Well, then here's what you gotta do, Alice. Allie, you and me, we gotta talk. I need you to talk to all your friends, the people that say, isn't it stupid? They say it behind closed doors. Have them do what your boy does, and what Hypnotic does, and what Cult Classic Cage, and all these other individuals putting themselves at risk saying it publicly on YouTube. Get them to also talk about how stupid it is, because we agree, it is stupid. But if no one's willing to speak up, if you're the only one willing to do something, then yeah, nothing's ever gonna change. Your boy Paul Stanley spoke up, and look what happened. He recanted 24 hours later because he's a pussy. Don't be a pussy like Paul Stanley. Or did D. Snyder recant his when he said, because I believe D. Snyder said something very, very similar. I'd have to check. I could be wrong. This is a few months ago. Either way, get these people who agree with you behind closed doors saying, isn't it stupid, to shout it from the rooftops, bro. Predictably, Cooper's common sense takes have since sparked outrage in the media and online. Rolling Stone has accused him of spewing debunked bathroom predator myths. They're not debunked. There are literally news stories of this happening. What do you mean debunked bathroom predator myths? But all right. I'm not, by the way, not making fun of this article. They're quoting Rolling Stone, so I'm making fun of Rolling Stone. I'm really digging how Spiked is handling this conversation or this article here, and using right-wing anti-trans scare tactics. Woke hacks are especially aggrieved as Cooper was once famous for wearing makeup and confounding expectations of gender. There is a difference between wearing makeup and telling a 9-year-old that that's a dude, that's a little boy, you're a girl, while their brain is still all, spongy and moldable and absorbs whatever an adult that they trust tells them. So, of course, Rolling Stone would try to equate it as if there's no difference between a 20-year-old rock star wearing makeup and a 9-year-old little boy. Get the hell out of here. Cooper was pretty progressive on sexuality in the 1970s, says Rolling Stone, but he's apparently taken a decisively more conservative stance on the trans question today. Also, I don't know if this has anything to do with it or not, but something that Rolling Stone probably either doesn't know or isn't willing to admit, Alice Cooper's a born-again Christian. Now, I don't care one way or another about someone's, religious affiliation. I think that you can be a good person regardless of what religion you are, but there might be some sort of religious aspect to his thought process here, and you know what? That's fine by me. Alice Cooper, who built a career partly out of defying and toying with gender expectations, said he's afraid that being transgender is a fad. Well, it is. And he also leaned on right-wing anti-trans scare tactics about woke culture and bathrooms. Oh, Rolling Stone, how far you've fallen. Of course, there's nothing progressive about insisting that boys who play with dolls must really be girls. Exactly. You guys want to know something? You want to hear about a little Leon history when I was but a wee chap? Yes, I used to love my G.I. Joe and Max Steel toys. And you know what? Those were male action figures. They were about as tall as Barbies. So when the evil bad guy, captured someone, guess who they captured? My sister's Barbie dolls. You could technically say Leon played with Barbies. Now, was I using my G.I. Joes and my Max Steels to save these Barbies, kind of like, the whole woman on the train tracks trope that you saw in, like old cartoons and old movies? Yeah, that's what I was doing. Technically, I was still playing with Barbies. Didn't make me a tranny, unless, you've seen Leona on an episode of Saturday Night Hypnosis, but that's a little bit different. The gender bending of past rock stars was about liberating people from those gendered expectations and stereotypes. The trans ideology, on the other hand, repackages them in a woke guise. Alice Cooper's comments on trans are a breath of fresh air. While most of our aging rock and roll heroes have accepted all the elite orthodoxies, at least there are still some rock stars left who are kicking against the pricks. Nice! Man, what do you got to say? Alice Cooper laying it on thick, and I love to see it. The question just remains, it's gonna stick to it. Like, is he actually gonna have the absolute stones, the Rolling Stones, to stick to what he said, or is he gonna get bombarded on Instagram and Twitter and all this other yada yada with hate until he recants and comes back with some sort of, internet speech of, I'm so sorry, I need to be re-educated about my mishandled comments about the LGBTQ community. I realize I've hurt a bunch of people and whatever. But if he does do that, how do we even know that it's actually Alice Cooper? We already saw what happened with Neo. His publicist tried to, pull a fast one and say that, oh, Neo's put out a post as if it was Neo himself saying that he apologized and whatnot, until Neo put out a video saying, I don't give a damn what my publicist said. That wasn't me that made that. At this point, do we even trust when celebrities, have these sort of apology posts? Maybe a lot of them are more based than we think, and then their publicists get a hold of them. But then again, they still don't, publicly call out their publicists like Neo did. So, I don't know. It's still all up in the air. But all I'm curious about is Alice Cooper going to walk this back, or is he going to stand his ground? Because if he's going to stand his ground against these Frankensteinian rules, these Frankensteinian children, and really adults who want to Frankenstein their own kids, then yeah, I think it would be nice to have another bass rocker on our side. But those are just my opinions. Let me know yours in the comments down below, or let me know on X, where you can find me at BoltTheWord. That's right, did it right, didn't call it Twitter that time. I am a nerdy news channel. I cover nerdy news every day, now twice a day, so please do subscribe. You can catch me at 11 a.m. Central Standard Time and 3 p.m., which is when you're hopefully watching this. But that being said, if it's later on in the day, what's the next day, go back, check out the back catalog. I got plenty of nerdy and cultural news. Maybe you missed something. Jack and Daxter's getting a live-action movie. I bet you didn't know about that. Come on, watch some old videos. Until then, it's all here in the Nerdosphere, and this has been Words of Paradise.